You are probably thinking that you are on the wrong channel, but you are not. I'm gonna do my makeup. I'm gonna do the makeup book tag. If you didn't know, this is not my makeup channel. This is my second channel where I have my other passions beside makeup, which is traveling. So I do my travel vlogs and I do books. So I do book reviews and stuff like that. Started doing that recently, been absolutely loving it. So this is kind of like my passion project. If you didn't know, I run a YouTube channel and I have been having my makeup channel for about a decade, and that is dedicated to makeup. So when I started to get into book talk and bookstagram and booktube this year, I've been not watching it for that long. I saw this tag and I'm like, this is perfect. Also, I'm wearing these for a little bit because my under eyes have been going through a rough time this week and I need a little extra love. So this is just, I will link everything that I'm wearing down below. And these are just under eye patches by Pixie. So I thought this is perfect. So I'm gonna answer some questions about books while I do my makeup. It's basically like one question per step. I will say though, and this is not a shame thing towards anyone, I've seen a couple of people do this tag and you can tell that it's made for the book community and not for the makeup community. And I absolutely love that. Like, bronzer is not a step. Eyeshadow, not a step. Eyeliner is a step though, so I'm gonna do eyeshadow instead when we do eyeliner, and I am not gonna do my brows on camera. I'm instead gonna be doing them off camera, and I'll do bronzer for that step. So I'm making up as I go. I did see this at, I think her name is Belle, which is one of my favorite booktubers, and I will leave that video down below. And I saw this updated version. I'm trying to find like who made this tag, and I did see that 8 years ago somebody added more questions to this tag, and I will link that video down below as well. So this is an old tag and I'm so excited to be doing this. If you are interested in more makeup, and if you found my channel through the travel vlogs or through the book content, I do have a makeup channel, and that is my full-time job. That's my gig. This is just a passion project, but we are going to be talking about books. I'm so excited. I did not bring the books here. I am going to be doing, actually, I did recently on my main channel, I did a best makeup of 2024, and I'm going to be using a bunch of those products because I thought that this could be a good opportunity to be using those. And if you're interested in any of the makeup or any of the books, I will have those linked down below in the description box if you want to check out like what I was talking about. So the questions, I will put the questions down below as well, because I do know that I have some friends in the makeup community that also loves reading. And if you want to do this, listen, I cannot wait to hear it. Primer. First step, I'm actually going to be using, this was not in my yearly favorites, but I think that this will be so amazing with the foundation I'm going to be wearing. And I'm still in the process of reviewing this, so I'm going to be wearing it. This is the Milk Hydro Grip, the glowy one, the new one. And it is really an interesting, like, look at that. Like, look at how interesting it is. It's such a fun one. So we're definitely going to be using that one. And the first step is pick a book that left a lasting impression. And listen, I could talk on and on and on about books that I think about, like my Roman empires, book that I think about on a daily basis. And there is a bunch of books that left a lasting impression. I always recommend to people a couple of books, but I thought, why don't I interpret this quite, let me take these off, quite literally. Why don't I interpret this to the literal like meaning of leaving something lasting? Because I have a tattoo on my body with a quote from one of my favorite books, and it's an old. I had this done in my early 20s. Let me wash my hands and I can show you, because I don't think there's anything more lasting impression than that. Let me see if I can show you this without getting demonetized, but it is right here. It says et in Arcadia ego, which is Latin, and it means even in Arcadia I am, basically. And this is a quote from the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which is one of my absolute favorite books of all time. It is a little bit of a brick, and it is definitely not it's not like facts, but it's based on facts, and it is the book that inspired the Da Vinci Code. It is very like religious. They're basically like theorizing around actual documents. Like, so this isn't like a made up story, but the theorization around it is of course them theorizing around actual documents. And it is an incredibly interesting story if you want to read more about like the origins of the Christian religion, if you're interested in that. I also know that this really book really pisses a lot of people off, but it is a very fascinating book, and this quote is from that book. And I had a very deep obsession about this book for a really, really long time. Clearly have a tattoo on my body, and I just I love it, and I highly recommend the book as well. I had a period where I was deeply into those kind of like religious conspiracy, religious history or theorizing, or like those kind of books, because I thought they were incredibly interesting. And if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. Next one is a foundation, and I am actually going to be wearing the Simply Ageless Skin Perfecting Essence by CoverGirl. And this one is, let me get a brush. And this one is, again, it's a yearly favorite, and I think this is going to work so good with this because it's like a skin tint, so it doesn't give too much color, which is what I'm looking for today. And I think it's gonna work so good with this gripping primer that has a little glow to it. And the question is, pick your favorite first book in a series. And honestly, I could pick so many, but I also can pick so many books where I'm like, almost like the series would be better if this first book wasn't so bad. Like, do you understand? Like, there's a couple of series. Oh my god, let me like reposition myself. There are so many books that I've read, especially as of late, where I'm like, this series would have been so much better if the first book wasn't so lame. I'm looking at you, Sarah J. Maas. Like, because a couple of her first books are like, babe, I love you, but like, what are we doing here? I will say, a first book that I absolutely loved, that I've read as of late, where I really think like, oh, this is such a good book. And I did give this book a 4-star, and I gave the other books in the series so far a 5-star, like both of them, is Spark of the Everflame. And again, the first book isn't as good as the second book, but dang, it is such a good book. And it like really grips you, and the slow burn in the series is so good. And I highly recommend it. And again, that series isn't finished, but at least there's like 3 out of 4 books out. So I can still say that, yeah, the first book is so good, and it really just makes you want to read like the rest, because I think there's a lot of books where the first book is just so different from what the rest of the series is about, like Throne of Glass or ACOTAR, where the first book isn't really giving you that feeling or the storyline that people that read the entire series like actually talk about. And even like a series that I love, that's like an older series, which is The Hunger Games, the first book is like so different from the rest of the series, which just makes it like, the first book is great, but the other books are better, according to me. And it's just the first book isn't really about what the actual like overarching theme like of the books are. And then there are some books like when I was younger, I read Lord of the Rings. That first book, I am sorry, that's a 2-star. Listen, don't argue with me. Love the second and the third book. Like the Return of like the King. Is it called The Return of the King? And the Tale? Because I've read them in Swedish, I will say. But the first book, dang, that is such a snooze fest. I absolutely do not like it at all. And the only reason why I got through it is because I had family in my life that was like, listen, it will get so good. And I agree. I love the second and the third book. But that first book, you don't need to read it. Watch the movie. Yeah, you're missing a couple of things like Tom Bombadil, and you're missing something. Yeah, sure. But I will die on this hill. The Lord of the Rings, the first book, that is not a masterpiece, okay? I'm sorry, no. I feel like this is just giving this like fresh, glowy, but not like sticky, dewy, low coverage. I'm all about it. We are gonna do concealer. This concealer was in The Best of Beauty as well. This is the Refi concealer. It is in, what is it actually called? It's called Shake Before Use. Have I ever done that? Have I ever shaked this concealer before use? I don't think I have. I don't remember what this one is called. I don't know, but it's the Refi concealer. I have it in number 6, which is really light, but I haven't been self-tanning since April. So I think a lighter one might actually help a bit. So this question is, pick a character you wish you could get rid of, which is hot take. And here I will say, maybe not get rid of, but a character that I'm just so, like every time this character gets mentioned in the book series, I'm like, oh God, for the love of everything. And that is Elaine. I'm sorry, but like that girl has the personality of wet cardboard. and you cannot tell me otherwise. And the fact that they're trying, this is from, again, ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I'm not going to mention too much in case you haven't read the series. I don't want to spoil it for you. But I'm just like this, and I feel very strongly about this as well, because if this was a person in real life, I would I don't care. She is so bland. She's so mellow, so bland. According to me, she doesn't have any kind of personality. And I just, again, maybe I felt the same way about Nesta, I will say. And the fourth book, is it the fifth book? Well, I think they're calling the short book like 3.5 or something, but the fifth book. Basically, they're trying to give Nesta a reason for being the way she is, and I'm just assuming that the next book is going to be Sarah J. Maas trying to explain why Elaine is the way that she is. And good luck with that, because I just have a really hard time with these too mellow, too boring, too low. It's not the kind of, again, it's clearly not me. I am an absolute chaotic mess. But I am drawn to people like that are loud and chaotic and outspoken. And Elaine isn't that. And for me, that's the kind of character that I am the least interested in. And it also makes me feel like I don't want to have a full book where I'm just hearing her thoughts, because the girl doesn't speak. I don't want to have a full book where I'm just hearing her thoughts. So I think that for me is the character where in a way, I'm so excited to see the next book in ACOTAR come out. But in a way, I'm also like, oh, it's going to be a book about... I feel like this book, people feel about... What is it, the Tower of Dawn. Oh my god, I don't even remember the books. I feel the same about this one as people feel about that one. Because I'm like, I don't care about Elaine. And I know I'm super harsh, but maybe she'll have the redemption arc of a lifetime, but... kind of doubting it. Next one is powder, and I'm going to be using 2 different powders because I'm extra. I'm going to be using the Tower 28 under my eyes and the One Size a little bit in my T-zone. This is a really interesting one, and this is pick your favorite last book in a series. And there's a lot of books, book series that have ended really on a high note, according to me. There's a lot of where I'm like, oh, this book was really good. But I want to mention one that is... Again, it's one of my Roman empires. I think about this ending on a daily because I think it symbolizes something big that almost has gotten lost in our entire civilization, or where we're at right now in society. And that is the last book in the Mary Lou series. Is it called Champion? Let me Google this. Okay, so the first book is called Legend, then it's Prodigy, and then it is Champion. Oh, Champion is the third book in this trilogy. And this is... When is this book from? This series, I read this a long time ago. This series came out in the whole young adult dystopian, that era. That's when this one came out. Yeah, it says perfect for the fans of the Hunger Games and Divergent. This is better than Divergent. I will die on that hill. Much better. It is from 2014, if that tells you anything. So... This is strong female lead, and there is a love story. Of course, there's no smut because it is young adult, but it is such a strong ending with... I'm not going to give too much away because I don't want to spoil. You really should read this series. Listen, I'm contemplating rereading it myself. Basically, the ending, like I said, it's something that I feel has gotten lost, and that is that we love someone so much that we let them have the best choice for them, even though it's not the best choice for us. It's about realizing that what we want and what is best for us isn't what's best for the one we love. And if we truly, truly love them, we will pick the option that's best for them, even though it's hurting us. And it is just such an amazing, bittersweet, kind of open ending. And I absolutely loved it. And I still think about it to this day. It is the ultimate selfless act, and that is literally the the altruism isn't dead kind of a thing, and I absolutely 100% recommend it. It's such a different ending. I also really like the last book, honestly, in the Hunger Games series, because I truly feel like that explored the nobody is a good person in a war. It's about the winner getting to write the history and like deciding who was the good person and the bad person, and they were all bad people, and just dealing with the things after, like a war, dealing with the things, dealing with the thoughts, and just being satisfied by living a small life. Again, I'm being very deep here, but I just think that sometimes people are like, oh, it's young adult, but there are so many good hidden stories in these books where I'm like, I highly recommend, like I said, the Legend Prodigy Champion series. Such a good series. Again, I would not be sad to reread that one. Next one is eyebrows, and I am just gonna do my bronzer and then I'll do my eyebrows off camera because I hate doing my eyebrows and it is super boring. I'm gonna be using this gel to powder bronzer by RMS, and I am just gonna be doing a little bit of bronzer. And the question is, a book that you think everyone should read. There is a bunch of books where I'm like, oh, you should really read this. I will say I always recommend the Holy Blood, Holy Grail that I talked about in the beginning. I always recommend Pope Joan. I think it's such a absolutely good book. I also think, even though I don't think they're the best fantasy out there, I think that if you're reading fantasy, I think knowing about Tolkien and like the impact that he has had on fantasy writing, it really does help out a lot with like understanding where some things, like not maybe necessarily origins from, but at least some of it origins from, and also like where some of these things became popularized to the point that they're like almost the bread and butter of like fantasy at this point. There's also a really good, it's not high fantasy and it's almost bordering into like romantasy, but without necessarily a lot of smut. And it is by Leon Hearn, and it's called Across the Nightingale Floor. It is several books, I think it's 4 books. And it is written by a woman. She took the name Leon Hearn to be able to publish because they didn't want to publish her with her normal name because she had already published, I think, some chick lit, and her publisher was like, you can't get into fantasy, like that's not your genre. So she published in another company under a taken name. So I think that that's super smart. It is not high fantasy, but it's taken part in like medieval Japan kind of a style, and it's following this guy that has these hidden talents. So it's like, it's fantasy elements, but it's not like super high fantasy, and it's still in this world, but just clearly medieval. And it's just such a wonderful love story, and it's just such a wonderful story, and I love the characters, and I was absolutely obsessed with these books and reading them. And again, that's also a series that I could see myself rereading, and it also gives you this perspective of like what fantasy can be. And I remember reading that one after Tolkien, and I also read Robin Hobb, the Farseer trilogy, which is also like 10 out of 10. And I remember thinking, oh, this is what fantasy can be. Because I remember reading Tolkien and thinking, where's the women? You think you're gonna hear about Arwen? You're not. There's like literally no women. Arwen is like not, I don't even think she has a line in those books. Like she does not exist in the books. So I remember reading those books and being like, oh, there are women in fantasy. And I just remember seeing fantasy in a totally different light. So I totally recommend all of those, even though they're a little bit older, but they're really good. I am now realizing that the 2 girls that I linked down below, they're not using the same prompts. And I'm like, what? Really? Which is so interesting, because 2 of the prompts that Belle Therese, that's her name, that she was using, was one of them was, which book do you wish you could erase from your memory? I think she had that with Foundation. I'll leave all the questions down below. And for me, right now, how I feel right now, I want to erase Quicksilver from my memory so that I can read it again for the first time. Is that how you're supposed to answer this question? I don't know, but I'm obsessed with this book. I'm obsessed with Kingfisher. I'm obsessed with everything, obsessed with the side characters. I want to read it again for the first time because I love this book. I don't know if you noticed, by the way, it just got traditionally published, and it went into the #1 spot instantly on the New York Times bestseller list. First week, first place. I'm so happy with her. The book's amazing. It's just been bought by Netflix. It's been made into a Netflix movie. I could not be more excited. I am absolutely obsessed with this book, and I wish I could read it again for the first time. Another one that was not the prompt that I saw. I do wish that Belle Therese would put the questions down below in the description box. She did not, and that's probably why I didn't think about it when I was watching this video, but she had another prompt for another one as well. And that was the last book that you read. And as I'm filming this, I only have like 50 pages left in Fear the Flames. So I'm gonna finish that one tonight. So that's gonna be the last book that I read. I mean, I'm almost done with it, and it's so far it's a good book. I think that I'm really enjoying the book, and it's one of those books where it's like, oh, I think I have like 80 pages left, because it's enough pages where like if there's a really good ending, I'm talking like Metal Slinger, like Sarah J Maas kind of a chaos at the end, this could easily turn into a 5-star. But I think right now we're leaning into it being like a 4-star book. It's still really good though, but that's the one I'm finishing right now. And her prompt for brows, which was the one I did for bronzer, was a book with a crazy twist, and the other girl had for eyebrows a book that you think everyone should read. So a book with a crazy twist, Metal Slinger. Obsessed. Does not cover how I feel about Metal Slinger and how I feel about the writing at the end of that book. I don't even know if twist is it makes you rethink how you read a book. It made me rethink, like almost like, you know, with like Tamlin and Reason and Fairy, it makes you rethink, why am I not seeing these signs? Why am I not seeing the signs until it actually happens? Definitely recommend that book. And I don't know why I thought there wasn't one for eyeshadow. There is definitely one for eyeshadow. I'm gonna put on some eye primer while I talk about the prompts, because they both had the same prompt for this one. I don't know, I guess there's been some changes to, because again, I'm looking literally at one girl who did this tag. I'm using the Sigma primer, it's my absolute favorite. One girl that did this tag this year, and one girl that did the tag 8 years ago. And I don't know why I thought, I don't know what possessed me to think, let me get a brush, that there was going to be absolutely no changes to this tag. And even the girl from 8 years, she was even saying, oh, I added some questions. So of course other people have done that throughout the years as well. But that just leaves me with even more things to answer. So I think that that's only a good thing for us. But the prompt is basically a book that like has your favorite cover. And I think that Belle Therese had a similar one, which was like a book that has your favorite colors. I think that was the one. And I'm still gonna go with the Spark of the Everflame, the Heat of the Everflame, and the Glow of the Everflame. If you didn't know, this is my own brand, by the way, Cinch Beauty. I love orange, I love yellow, so I did this orangey yellow as like the color for my own brand. This is the blush that I'm gonna be using again. I love this kind of a color. So those colors, that fiery like red, and I love the silhouette. I just think they look so good. And I'm also so excited to see, because sometimes when something gets traditionally published, and these pen code books have been picked up and they are being traditionally published right now, I'm so happy to see they kept the cover art, because I think the cover art is just so good. I'm so happy to see that. I'm actually gonna be using my own palette. Again, this is my own brand, Cinch Beauty, and I am gonna be doing another look with this palette. I'm actually gonna be doing something blue today. And again, this isn't a makeup tutorial. That's not what this is. So I'm just gonna be slapping some on because I want to wear some makeup, because I'm actually filming, I'm trying to move some brushes. I'm actually filming a video for my main channel after this. So I am gonna do some darkness in the outer corner. And I put a little bit under my eyes too. And now I'm gonna use the lighter blue that's called Orbit. And I'm just gonna be blending this shade out. Again, this is a book channel, not a makeup channel, so I'm not paying too much attention to explaining the makeup steps. If you want to know more about makeup, I definitely suggest my other channel. But I thought it was fun that there actually is a makeup and book tag. So I thought it was perfect and another chance for me to sit down and use some of my favorite product on video, because I feel like I never get the chance to do that a lot, because there's always like new, and I just want to be like, you know, sometimes you just want to use your absolute favorites, and I'm excited to do that because like the skin looks delicious, and we are going to be diving into some blush and highlighter too. I don't know why I thought there wasn't any eyeshadow in this tag. Again, I didn't even pay attention that they were answering different questions. I was just looking at the videos and I'm like, this is so interesting. Does that help? Next shadow is going to be the dark sparkly one, and I am just going to cover basically my entire existence in this. I'm just going to do a little bit of the pastel mint in the inner corner to brighten stuff up, and then we're going to go into mascara. And for mascara, they actually both have the same prompt. I'm gonna use my favorite mascara, which is Bad Gal Bang by Benefit, and it is Pick a Long Book. Let me tell you about the book that my bestie Ali Dawson has me reading. This is her favorite book of all time, and it's actually a fanfic book, and it is a Harry Potter fanfic, and I have never read Harry Potter. I never did that. I don't think I was in the right age to read Harry Potter. It wasn't at least popular where I lived in Swedish when I grew up, and then it became extra popular in Sweden, but I was already like 18, so I was maybe like 17. No, I was probably 18, 19. I had moved away from home. It was not the time for me to be reading Harry Potter at that time. That's not what I was reading. So I never read that, but the book is called Manacled, I think. And it is supposed to be traditionally published, and you know, all the things that are like fanfic, all the things that are copyrighted are to be put away, and it is being removed from whatever that platform is called that's fanfic at the end of the year. So Ali had me download this one so I could read it, and it's very rough. It's like, and I don't say like, I like the writing, it's an interesting book, but I do think that when it's getting tradpub, not only is it going to be of course not Harry Potter, any reference to Harry Potter anymore, I also think it's going to be shorter, because there are some places that do linger on. The book is 1,400 pages, and so far I think I'm like 14% in, and I'm like so yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm struggling. I'm not struggling. It's a nice book, but I do think that maybe it's a little bit too long, but I'm dedicated. Listen, I am, if nothing else, a dedicated person. I'm not a quitter when it comes to books. I don't DNF books. I just finish them, even if I don't like them, because I read pretty quickly, and I'm just like, I'll just finish it, basically. I also have this tendency where I continue reading series, even if I'm not loving them. Not if I hate them, but like, even if I don't like the first book, I have a tendency of still reading like 1 or 2 books more in the series to be like, was it really not that bad? Because sometimes books do get better, especially like, I'm thinking like Sarah J. Maas, like her first books are never by far, some of them, like I didn't even like the first book in Throne of Glass. I was like, this is kind of lame. So I didn't like even love that book at all. But then it turned into one of my most favorite series I've ever read. I love Throne of Glass so much. So yeah, you never know. But I have a tendency of like not quitting on books. And Manacled, like I'll get through it. But 1,400 pages? That's a lot. So for some reason, my microphone was not picking up when I was putting on the eyeliner. I don't do liquid liner, so I did a liner pen. This one is from Tarte. I love it, like a bright, contrasty waterline. And the prompt was basically like a dark and mysterious book. I don't do horror, thriller, anything like that. I don't like that kind of a feeling. Quite honestly, the most expensive I've ever read is probably Dan Brown. And I love the Robert Langdon books, but I actually prefer Perception Point and Digital Fortress. I remember those 2 books, I like them even more. And honestly, I remember loving the plot, but I don't remember the plot. So I quite honestly would love to read them again. I really like those 2 books. But yeah, I don't do scary books. I hate being scared. I get angry. You scare me, I'm angry. So I don't watch horror movies either. It's not my journey. Next one is Blush, and it is pick a book that has some cringe-worthy romance. And actually both of these girls had the same prompt for the last 3, so we're gonna stick to that. And I am gonna be using the blush from my own brand again. This is Singe Beauty, and this is Timid Tomato. And I'm gonna do a little flimsy brush. This is the F06. And we are gonna do a little bit of red. You can see I'm a little bit glowy from that like beautiful bronzer. And this is just like a really nice wearable red. What I thought about for this prompt was actually, I don't remember the name of the author, but I'm popping up the picture so you can see. But it's the Ever King and the Ever Queen. And the main romance in these books are so cringy. And I'm sorry if you love those books, but dang, they keep saying the quiet things out loud. And the author keeps using the same phrases and the same words all the time. And she, especially the female character, she just keeps harping on and on about the bond and how he's like this beautiful monster, and it's just so cringy. And the book is just them getting at it like every other page, and there's just, the plot ain't plotting. and the romance is kind of cringy. So yeah, that wasn't for me. I didn't like any of the two characters, and I quite honestly just thought the entire like book series was not my favorite. Let me put a little bit more powder here. I'm gonna do some highlighter. This is a very bushy. This is the Forever Glow by Dior. Really love this one. We're gonna do a little bit up here and just go in with an FL7 and just blend this out. And the prompt is a book that brightens your day. Here's the thing. I am not big on rereading books, and I am not big on revisiting books, like reading a chapter here and there. I would love to find the book and the chapter that brightens my day, because I am definitely the kind of person, I do suffer from basically like chronic depression. I've been diagnosed with clinical depression when I was like 17, and I've been dealing with that on and off quite literally my entire life. And I do have some things or some routines that I do when I'm having a bad day that picks me up. And I would love to find something in books that does that for me too. But the thing that picks me up, the thing that I do when I'm in a bad mood, I watch Disney's Emperor's New Groove. It is my happy place, and I would love to find a book or a chapter in a book that does that for me too, but I'm yet to find it like so far, but I'm not against the idea of it. And if you have something like that, like a comfort book or a comfort chapter in a book that you read when you need to pick me up, I would love to hear about that. But for me, it's a cartoon movie. Let me do a little bit more powder before we get into the last prompt, which is for lips, and it is your favorite book kiss. And there's been a lot of like good like book kisses, but one that I think about is in, so is that in the, because it's not Spark of the Everflame. I keep mentioning this series, but quite honestly, it's such a good series. It's not Spark of the Everflame. That one needs to be sharpened. And I don't think it's in the, it has to be in the second book. So what is that? The Glow of the Everflame? It's just, you're seeing the cover here by Penn Cole. There is this scene, and if you've read it, you know, and I don't want to give it away, but there's this scene where a kiss is very significant for the plot and also leaves the main female character with a lot of questions throughout the upcoming like chapter or two. Like, what does this mean? Is this like, am I being trolled? Am I being deceived? Was this all games? Is this true? What is true? What is not true? And I thought it was really interesting, a way of writing in a kiss in a scene to make it significant for the plot in more than just like the romance. It's not just significant for the romance, but also for the main plot. And I thought that was a very interesting way of writing in a kiss. I don't remember exactly how that was because it was so long ago since I read Pope Joan, but I remember that there's a kiss in that book where I was like, finally. And I don't remember exactly, like, again, I would love to reread that. Such a good book. But I also remember that kiss meaning more. It meant more than just the romance. It was like there was more things to it. Before we finish this up, I am gonna do some lippy. This is, I think it's Peachy Nude. This is an ABH lip velvet. It's one of my favorite, like, matte formulas right now. Absolutely loving it. And I think that is it. Let me actually, is my hair doing, no, it's not. Holy bananas. Let me get a comb. Honestly, you know what my hair would need? A little like hydration. That's probably what my hair needs, but here we are. I think we are, oh, I just want to get my hair behind my ears. I can't be dealing with this, but the makeup look is done. I think it's super cute. And look at my frizzy hair. Nobody look at my hair. Nobody look at my hair. And yeah, I just was so excited to see, like, you know, the worlds are colliding, the makeup and the books. I thought that was so much fun. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. If you're wondering about any of the things that I am wearing or any of the things I was talking about, I'll leave it in the description box down below. Don't forget to check that out. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave as well. I will have I'm thinking about I'm gonna do a November and December reading wrap up. I'm hoping to finish all the books I want to finish. I do have my friend visiting me at the moment, so definitely have not been reading as much as I usually do because I try hanging out with her. But I want to have that, and I also am thinking about doing all the books I gave a 5-star. I think I'm gonna do something like that as well. for the end of the year. So let me know about if that sounds like something you're interested in as well. If you have any suggestions of things you would like to see, please let me know. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!